Yo, what's good YouTube? In today's video, I got you all the new top 5 meta loadouts to be running here after the updates. If you enjoy the video, let's break 200 likes, subscribe, notifications turned on, and let's get into it. All right, so the first gun we're going to be getting into here today is going to be the Compact 92. Pretty much one of my personal favorite SMGs to run. There's a lot of really great SMGs, but if you're trying to go for something that's got like the fastest TTK at close range, this will be it right here. So let me give you guys the best setup for it. So we can skip the optic, skip the muzzle section, go straight for the barrel, and the reason being is we're gonna go all the way down here to the very bottom and use the integrated suppressor barrel. So when you take a look at this, it gives you, of course, the ability to stay off the mini map. It increases your bullet velocity and your damage range. And we take a look at these detailed stats right here. We can see our damage at effective range right below the sort of like mannequin dummy looking thing there. It's 15.2 meters. And the only other thing that's going to get you anywhere close to that is if you go up in here and select the long barrel, which gives you the maximum increased your damage range. It only gets you to 15.8. So we lose 0.6 meters, which is not going to be noticeable by having this on there. And we also increase our bullet velocity and stay off the radar. So it's a nice little 3-for-1. I think it's truly a much better option than running the long barrel and having to throw on the muzzle or something like that. Just go for the nice little 3-in-1 attachment right here. And you guys will be good to go. After that underbarrel section, we're gonna go down here and throw on the Ranger foregrip. It helps our overall horizontal recoil control and of course our sprinting movement speed. This is pretty huge. I recommend this on this gun. It really doesn't have a whole lot of horizontal recoil, at least from when I use it. I don't think it has a whole lot. Maybe you guys feel differently about it, but if you feel differently about it, you feel like it's got a little bit too much, throw on the vertical foregrip and you guys will be taken care of. I don't think it really does that much more though, in terms of like between that and the Ranger. I think it actually does almost, well, it basically does the same thing. So you probably don't really have much benefit using the vertical over the Ranger, so go ahead and just use the Ranger. Magazine, we're gonna go down to here. We're just gonna use extended mag 2 instead of extended mag 3. The reason being is this slows you down a little bit too much for my liking. I feel like when I have 50 rounds in the mag for an SMG, I'm pretty well taken care of. And I don't feel an inherent need to have 60 rounds in the mag. I'm a 60-round mag kind of guy. It's what I like to run normally, but for this SMG and just obviously for optimizing the setup to be as good as it can be, we're running extended mag 2. Now we're gonna go into the rear grip section and we're gonna throw on the ergonomic grip, slide to fire, dive to fire, and of course aim down sight speed. It makes a massive difference when you guys are sliding around, doing all that fun jazz. I mean, this is like a close quarters specific rear grip just because, I mean, sliding is something I do all the time with Omni movement. If you guys are getting back into Warzone, you know, maybe you just haven't played as much, but with Verdansk coming out, you know, this is something to take note of, is that with the Omni movement, you definitely need to have like an ergonomic grip on there. Sprint to fire, aimed out sight speed is great, but slide to fire, since we're gonna be sliding a lot, it does make a big difference. And of course it gives you ADS speed. Don't care as much about that dive to fire since we're not really diving a whole lot, but the other two are crucial. Now for the last attachment, basically there is 3 options in here that are pretty solid. So first one being the no stock. This is something that I will run quite frequently just because I think it works out great. I feel like, you know, I like that hip fire movement speed. The movement speed increases really nice. And of course, strafing movement speed is pretty cool as well. It helps you hit some of those nice little hip fire shots. Hip fire is still pretty accurate with this thing, honestly. So we have that on there. That's great. You can use the infiltrator if you want just more of that aim walking movement speed, which is pretty cool as well. That's probably my third choice out of the 3 attachments. And then the second choice would be the balance stock, just because it gives you a little bit of everything, right? Which is really nice. So go for the balance stock, or in my opinion, the no stock. And if you like the infiltrator, you definitely can. But I think the no stock and the balance are gonna be your 2 better options. So go ahead and throw either of those on there and you'll be totally taken care of. And this right here is going to be an absolute heater build. You should not be losing gunfights. Thanks to U4GM for sponsoring this video. They're a professional Black Ops 6 service provider that specializes in cheap gift packs up to 50% off. They also specialize in easy camo unlocks and max level along with bot lobbies. And you can even use code CHUCK at checkout for 5% off. Next up, we're going to be making a build here with the Kar 98K, something you can pair quite well with the Compact or really any other SMG. Actually paired it with the AS Val just the other day. So if you guys haven't seen that video, go check it out. So let's get in here and show you guys how to build this thing out. I think for largely the most people out there, I'm not exactly sure where this other optic is going to be. It's somewhere in here, but basically the SPX 6.6 times scope. Wherever it's at, I definitely passed it, but I go for the Range Caller V3.4. I personally like this. So, you know, this is like my go-to, but you can scroll in there and find the SPX 6.6 times, and that's going to be good as well. That gives you that nice little total cross magnification, and also can be, you know, zoom inable. So it goes from like a 6.6 to an 11. I don't mind just having only a 7 times, because that's pretty much the range in which, you know, I need. Like, I don't need to be able to see much farther than that, because the chances are I'm probably not getting those one-shot downs at that range, or I don't need to be taking somebody out at that range and I need to get a little bit closer. So for me, I think this is great, and probably what you guys should be running besides that SPX 6.6X. Now we're gonna go down here to the muzzle section, and the funny thing about the muzzles is that with all these MW3 guns, a lot of these do the same thing. If you'll notice, you'll go through these, like all these suppressors in here, you'll notice that these values next to me, the pros, are not changing at all. So you can essentially run whatever you want. Basically, I go for the sonic suppressor L because it's what we ran before. It does the same exact thing, so I don't feel the need to go ahead and change this up visually. It doesn't make a difference to me, so I just go ahead and run the sonic suppressor. You can run any of these other ones in here, maybe not this one though, not the quartermaster, but you can go run any of these other ones in here if you want to. It's not going to make a difference. It's going to all do the same thing. Barrel section, we're gonna go down here and throw on the 7.62 long barrel. Not gonna try to pronounce that. I tried it so many times over the duration of which the Kar 98K was, you know, obviously gas in MW3 Warzone. It's still really good now, but obviously it was way better then. And I butchered it every time. So it's a 7.62 long barrel. It does you the most, you know, for what you want, basically bullet velocity and damage range. You need that. We're trying to make this thing really effective at as long of a distance as possible, given that it is a very high mobility sniper or marksman rifle, whatever you want to call it. I call it a sniper. People kind of get a little bit finicky with what you want to call it. It's COD. I'm calling it a sniper rifle. So we're throwing that on there. Now we're gonna go back in here and throw on a stock, and we're gonna make this thing very mobile by throwing on the no stock. You can see, I mean, it looks a little bit funny, but those, you know, pros are pretty nice. We don't really care about no tack stance, who's using a sniper and tack stance. Recoil control, this is a bolt action, you know, so that doesn't really matter. Gun kick control, I mean, what does that matter? It's a bolt action. And flinch resistance, that's like the only real downside to it. So you will get thrown off target maybe a little bit more if you're going to be taking some shots and people are really, you know, putting some fire down on you. If you guys maybe don't want to run, like, let's say you don't want to run the no stock, go over here to the underbarrel and throw in like the XRK edge. You will be slower than the no stock, but it'll still be really good. That's what I was using when I was using it with the AS Val, and I still found it to be perfectly fine. So between the XRK edge and the no stock, you guys will be perfectly fine. And lastly, to round out this build, we're gonna go in here and we're gonna go find the 7.92 times 57 millimeter high grain rounds. You need these on here. If you don't have them on here, you are doing it wrong. Essentially, if you don't have this exact build minus the no stock, you're doing it wrong. There's only real one proper way to run the Kar 98K, and that is exactly what I'm showing you guys. So you have to run the high grain rounds on this thing. Otherwise, you're losing out on key bullet velocity, you can see, and on also damage range. So your damage at effective range is 67.1 meters. If you don't have this on there, you'll be less lethal over range, and that is the range, the maximum distance you can get a one-shot headshot when they're full health. So you can see that gets you that nice little 300 damage distribution, and everywhere else on the body is basically going to be a 2-shot. So maybe minus if you start hitting below, like, you know, in the stomach area, maybe a 2 to 3 shot, but overall, chest and above, it's going to be 2-shot anywhere in the game. So go ahead and throw that on there. That's going to be your full Kar 98K build. Next up, we're going to be using the Cypher 91. This is basically your go-to assault rifle. You guys shouldn't really be using anything else. In terms like you want a #1 meta AR, this is going to be it right here until it gets nerfed. It is still unbelievably good. Just kind of outclasses basically everything else. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff that's real competitive, but nothing is really as good as the Cypher. So let me show you guys the build. If you want to go into the red dot sites here, there's technically like a bunch of these red dots that are really viable. It kind of comes down to a little bit of personal preference, what you want. But for me right now, I'm running this Volzinski Reflex. That's how I'm pronouncing it. So if you guys don't want to run that, you can run something else. If you want something that's a little bit better at range, I go down here on the Jason Armory 2X or the Willis 3 times, which also gives you recoil gun kick control. Don't know why it's just not called recoil control, but whatever. It helps you on that regard and gives you a nice little 3X. This is about the max you're going to need. I don't think you should go down here and run like the Prisma 4 or something else like that. That's just not going to be beneficial. Stick with like the Willis 3 times, Jason Armory, or one of these red dots in here. Like I said, I'm going to be running this Volzinski, as I find this to be truly awesome because I'm playing a lot of Resurgence. Maybe that'll change here though when Verdansk drops. Now we're gonna go into the muzzle section. We're gonna throw on the compensator. This is pretty standard. You gotta throw on the comp. It helps you with the nice little 3 green arrows for your vertical recoil control. Sometimes I get questions about whether or not to use the muzzle brake or the ported compensator. I'll go over this real quick. You can see your vertical recoil control is only 2 out of the 3, which is not great. So we don't like that to begin with. And first shot recoil is not something we really care about because, you know, this doesn't have like wicked first shot jump. It's just basically jump over time. So we don't care about that, and it's not going to do us any benefit. We will get less beneficial recoil control on a fully automatic gun, you know, using the ported compensator as opposed to the compensator. And then for the muzzle brake, this is essentially like if you're going to run like the Goblin or something that's single shot and spammable, this is pretty much what you would be running right here, because first shot recoil control, obviously it's single shot, you know, it's spammable, so you want that to help you. And then the kick reset speed is really good because it'd bring it right back down to center. So that'd be for like your semi-autos. But for all automatic guns, we're running the compensator just because that's overall the best. Suppressor would be cool, but I mean, recoil is definitely better to have control of rather than staying off the radar. We want to be able to hit our shots. Barrel section, we're throwing on the gain twist. No real reason you guys need to go ahead and run anything else. Like the reinforced barrel is cool, getting you out to that. What is it? Well, it actually doesn't even select it, so we're gonna go ahead and do that. If you want to go ahead and run the reinforced barrel, it gets you to 55 meters of range, 972 meters of bullet velocity, which is pretty solid. Generally speaking, if that was like the max you were gonna get, this should still be a real solid AR to run. But overall, we like having this, which still has us at 45.7, not the absolute greatest, but still pretty solid. And then our bullet velocity is, 1134, which is definitely way better than 972. So that's going to make it feel a lot more hit scan, and you won't really notice that damage drop off, as this truly will beam people at range. It's pretty disgusting. So you definitely want to go ahead and run that. It'll be your best friend. Underbarrel section, we're throwing on that vertical foregrip, helps your horizontal recoil control. You know, you guys want to go ahead and run that. Nothing else is going to be better. Don't ever go down here for any of this BS. I mean, I didn't even know you could have a crossbow underbarrel attachment. Let's scroll down here. That's actually pretty neat. But don't go for any of this down here. Just go for the vertical foregrip and you'll be taken care of. Lastly, magazine. We're throwing on an extended mag 2, which is pretty standard. 60 rounds in the mag. Y'all know what I'm about to say. I'm a 60-round mag kind of guy, so I like that. So go ahead and throw that on there and you guys will be taken care of. This is going to be an absolute banger. Very simple Cypher 91 #1 meta build. Next up, something you guys can pair really nicely with the Cypher or that Car 98K. Just a really great SMG, the C9. This will be really solid, really fun to run. So let's get in here and show you guys how to build it. A couple ways to build it out, but I'll show you what's the most effective. So first thing, the barrel. We're going to go down here and throw on the long barrel to increase out our damage range to the absolute max. It only gets you out to about 15.8 meters, which before it got nerfed a little bit, it went out to about 20, which is pretty cool. So you actually could have afforded to run the reinforced barrel, but I think overall you're much better off running the long barrel. The bullet velocity is still great. It's a close range gun. We don't need it to be much, farther than that. So go ahead and run the long barrel on that. Underbarrel section, there's 2 good options in here. First one being the vertical foregrip. If you feel like, you're C9, when you're using it in game, you're trying to hit those shots and it starts really kind of jiggling, kind of doing that weird recoil, which it does have, the ability to do, run the vertical foregrip and that'll probably take care of most of your issues. If you feel like you can get away with running only the Ranger foregrip and getting a little less horizontal recoil control, then go ahead and do that. That'll be great as well. And it'll help you with your sprinting movement speed. So overall, you really can't complain about that. It's going to be awesome either which way, so Ranger or vertical. Just see what works best for you. Try it out in the firing range. But for me, I normally go for the Ranger. Magazine, I've actually done it both ways here, Extended Mag 1 and Extended Mag 2. I definitely say I'm going to be going more for Extended Mag 2 now just because I like those 50 rounds. I think it's more beneficial to have that. So I'd say to go for that as opposed to Extended Mag 1. Even though the reload quickness is quite fast on this, I still think I enjoy having a little bit extra rounds in the mag. It does feel quite nice. Rear grip section, we're gonna go in here once again, throw in the ergonomic grip. It's just like the overall best rear grip to have on your SMGs. So I'd say to go ahead and throw that on there. It just makes the difference. And then lastly, in the stock section, we're gonna go in here and throw on the balance stock, which I will say kind of the same thing applies to this as it does for the compact, which you can use the infiltrator if you want to for more mocking movement speed. That's going to be great, or the nose stock. It just kind of comes down to a little bit personal preference, what you feel a little bit better with. It obviously has no cons. It's not going to mess your recoil, not like the MW3 and MW2 SMGs. we'll definitely do that. This will be perfectly fine either which way. Throw on there what you want. I like the balance stock a little bit more for this gun in particular, so that's what I run. So go ahead and slap that on there, and that's going to be a great C9 build. And for our last gun here today, we're going to be giving you guys a build here for the Model L. I know this was pretty much like the #1 meta AR for a while, and then the Cypher took over. This is still a really good assault rifle. Like, it's really good, and you guys can have some awesome success with it. I personally don't use it a lot just because, you know, if I'm running it, you know, if I'm going for an SMG video, I just have the Cypher on. But for those of you guys that like to kind of vary up your loadouts quite a bit, this will be another great option. So same thing kind of applies in here in the optics section. You can kind of do whatever you want. The Volzinski to be really solid on this thing just because it makes it almost feel like it has less recoil, to be honest. I really do feel like this sight does that, even though it doesn't say it. I feel like it kind of does that, so I like it quite a bit. But overall, it'll still be very effective. If you go down here, run the Willis 3 times or the Jason Armory, I think you might have better success running the Willis 3 times than you might have running the Volzinski, just the way the gun's built. I think it's a little bit more of a sit back kind of AR, not as much to be super aggressive due to the fire rate. I think overall, this will be pretty solid either which way. Like, run it however you want, optic wise, you'll be fine. I'm just gonna throw on the Willis 3 times though. Muzzle section, compensator is the go-to on this thing. You guys definitely want to go and throw that on there. No reason to run anything else. I explained these other two here in the previous build. So go ahead and slap the compensator on there and you'll be taken care of. Barrel section, you can see that this actually, well, it does want to actually show us what it does. So we're gonna actually just select this and go back in here. Basically, our bullet velocity is out to 1160 meters. Our damage net effective range is 47, so slightly farther than the Cypher. I think the fire rate is maybe slightly slower, maybe. But overall, the damage profile, everything's gonna be very similar to the Cypher. So you guys can run this, or you can run the reinforced barrel, technically speaking, and still have 1,000 meters per second bullet velocity and a 54-meter damage range. So it's up to you if you want to have that nice STG look on your barrel, because this has, I have that variant on, you get it from like Prestige 1 or whatever. You can definitely do that, or you can run the gain twist. Try out either which way, but I think the gain twist is going to be more effective ultimately. That is the way I would run this. You know, that's what I'm going to be using, so I want you guys to run the best thing possible, and I believe that to be the gain twist barrel. Out of barrel section, we're throwing on the vertical foregrip here as per usual. No reason to switch this up. I mean, it's just pretty standard, so go ahead and slap on the vertical foregrip. And we're gonna do that. Sorry, that was my phone if you guys heard that one. And then lastly, in the magazine section, we're throwing on extended mag 2. So this gets us to 50 rounds in the mag, not 60, unfortunately. But still 50 rounds is great, and it does the job. And obviously, because the fire rate, it's not gonna be too crazy. So go ahead and slap that on there. That's gonna be my final build. That's been my top 5. You guys enjoyed it? Give it a like, subscribe, check out this other video on screen, and I'll see you all next time.